One of the most common questions I get asked is,
Skipper Gripper, just what is the best PvE weapon? evanspear or Enforcer Axe?
there is more than just evanspear and enforcer's axe though. For example, the pale brair and a few other weapons. So just how many things can you run in PvE? Oh, actually this is incorrect. You need to multiply this by 2 and then you have the majority of the weapons that you can run. So today I'm going to be breaking down all the weapons that you can run for PvE, because there is actually quite a bit more options than you think, depending on your playstyle and the type of build that you're making. If you enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out my Discord for some extremely powerful PvE builds. A huge thank you to my channel members, especially those kind souls in the Mega and Super tiers. They get these videos early, along with other channel member perks. Part of the reason that there is so many right now, including medium and light weapons, is in part due to the swing speed changes that were done a couple weeks ago. This nerfed heavy weapons by about 3%, which is nothing major, but it buffed medium and light weapons by around 5 to 10%, just depending on the swing speed. So this did actually make things a lot more fair between the 3 weapon types. So why are there more than just 3 meta weapons? Well, for the most part, it comes down to weapons having different investments, criticals, as well as the existence of the crazy slot spell, which primarily affects the heavy weapon category. Starting off with light weapons, there is 2 that are meta, the quickfang and the divine flintlock. Or if you don't have crazy slots, then you'll simply use the alloyed dawnshot. Quickfang is a 0 investment light starter weapon. It does almost no damage. However, this might be one of the top 3 most powerful weapons in the game, and that's simply because of its critical. When using it, you will hit 4 times. Some of you may have noticed that hitting 3 times can allow us to proc enchants, meaning that the quickfang is meta simply because you can proc Grim instantly, and Grim is a 25% damage buff to both M1s and mantras. However, this is primarily used on mage builds. The way that you get a quickfang is by upgrading the starter weapon echoes, and then you can choose to spawn in with it. If you want to transfer it to your build though, what you do is you start at the Eater's spawn in with the quickfang, go buy a battle axe, then if you equip and unequip the quickfang, you can enchant it with Grim on an enchant stone, and then you can simply store it in the bank. That's how I've transferred it on a lot of my builds. The quickfang is most famously used in my Star Sovereign builds to make the damage, well, really extreme. But for light weapon builds that are going higher investments, then you'll be running a dawnshot or crazy slots. Before I talk about the dawnshot as well as guns in PvE, I do need to explain crazy slots, as this is an incredibly important bell to understand for light and heavy. The main issue with the bell is the RNG on it. How bells work in Deepwoken is they have various categories that things called bell points can be distributed into. For crazy slots, that is duration, which can give you a max of 2.5 minutes, as well as the weight of the rolls, so how often you are to get a certain type of weapon. Now, the exact formula isn't known for how crazy slots works, but I can say it works a little something like this. So, in total there are 6 possible weapons that you can roll. Let's just say that the lowest value a weapon can get is 1. There is a total of 50 points distributed between all of the 6 possible weapons. These don't have anything to do with percentages, it's just weight. So once these 50 points are distributed between all the weapon types when you get the bell, they are then multiplied by your heavy weapon. This just gives you the rough chances for rolling into a certain crazy slots weapon, and is typically the best way to visualize how it works. This is what I've noticed in my about 30 times using crazy slots on a PvE build, is that the higher I have in a weapon stat, the more likely I am to roll a good weapon. RNG is always a thing. This is why crazy slots is typically better for bosses, since you can just roll for crazy slots beforehand. While in Hell Mode or the Diluvian, you'll more usually run a defensive option like Sacred Field. So if you want to get a really good crazy slots, then you're going to need to reroll your bell a bunch of times and do some testing. So as I was saying, the Divine Flintlock is the strongest light weapon gun followed by the dawnshot. The reason guns are so good is because they effectively hit twice up close, once from the gun and a second time from the bullets. The iron bullets are the best, with all of the other ones typically decreasing your damage. The main issue with guns is it does have range issues, meaning that it's not super good for single target or crowd control. The main meta build that you'll find using light weapons is the Lunar Lord light variants. But moving on to medium, this has the strongest weapon in the game, Shatter Katana, but it's actually not as strong as you think. I talked about it in my Lunar Lord showcase, so I'll just repeat what I said there. The Shatter Katana is only better than the heavy weapons with a poser's ring. However, in order to make it better, you actually need max chain on the build. That means you need to start off with 20 chain stacks built, and if you ever get hit, your damage will totally flatline. I'll put a clip on screen of just how weak poser's ring gets if you get hit. And this was when I was hitting criminal with max chain. So yeah, you pretty much need to know how to flawless a boss to actually make Shatter Katana more worth it over a heavy weapon. It also has issues with the fact that you need to make sure that you sheath on time, because if you sheath too early, then, well, the boss isn't going to be dead and they have a chance to attack you. And if you sheath too late, then you've wasted time and might as well run heavy. So Shatter Katana is only really viable if you're an experienced PvE player. Otherwise, you'll just have a lot better of a time using heavy or light weapons. But before we discuss enchants, including how to become immortal with them, we do need to discuss the elephant in the room, heavy weapons. There is a lot of good heavy weapons. Let's start with the debate as old as Deepwoken. Evanspear versus Enforcer's Axe. Enforcer's Axe has a faster swing speed plus 10% innate pen, while Evanspear has a slower swing speed, no innate pen, but it has innate bleed attached to it, meaning that Speed Demon affects Enforcer's Axe but not Evanspear. The easiest way to proc Speed Demon is by using Lightning Cloak on your build. Lightning Cloak does actually give you a damage buff as well, due to your swing speed increasing. But even with Speed Demon, Enforcer's Axe is sadly not stronger than Evanspear. This is because for some reason, Speed Demon was nerfed from 25 to 15% a while ago. That being said, Enforcer's Axe, despite being the worst out of the three, still has its uses, simply due to the power of an AoE guard break crit, meaning that it's typically good for newer players who aren't experienced at fighting Enforcers or Squibbos. But saying Evanspear is the best weapon completely ignores the existence of the Divine weapons, because a Divine Axe or a Divine Greatsword are the highest DPS options in the game. Divine Greatsword swings lower but has more posture damage, so it's a little harder to use, but the M1s are a lot more rewarding. Heavy is also extremely good because with the power of crazy slots, you can use a main weapon and a divine weapon for damage. This is actually why Petra's Anchor and Pale Briar are so good, because for Petra's Anchor, you can use the crit for mobility. This is commonly used in layer 2 speedrunning, but you also have Pale Briar, which can give you a large AoE crit that you can then roll into a Divine Great Axe or Great Sword for extreme damage. So this is why Heavy just has so many options, because you have a base critical that you can use for whatever, and then you can roll into an extremely high damage weapon. I mean, that all is if you have a good build for crazy slots. However, Pale Briar on its own has uses, since it's extremely strong in Diluvian, due to the fact its critical can attack while you're getting stunned. Not to mention it pairs extremely well with Wild. However, there is still two other heavy weapons that are lower requirements, but still provide you with good DPS. The first is the Adretian Axe at 35 heavy. This is a guard break crit. Overall, it does do slightly less damage than an evanspear or crescent cleaver, but is extremely good for Hell mode and Enforcers. This is why I use the Adretian Axe on my Dawnbreaker build, because it's a good option for a very low amount of heavy. The Crescent Cleaver non-alloyed version is the non-guard break variant that you'll use, at 40 heavy and 10 strength. This is the most cost-effective DPS weapon in the game. The issue is it obviously doesn't have a guard break critical, so it's a little worse at fighting humanoids. And I don't believe you can motif a guard break crit onto it either. Either way, the Crescent cleaver's non-alloyed version is still a good option if you're doing something like Diluvian and Hell mode and don't need to worry about squibbos or humanoids. And for some general information, of course on all of these builds you're going to be running a 3-star damage weapon. That should be obvious. But now it's time for the enchants section. There is 2 commonly ran enchants, but in actuality there is 7 usable ones. Astral, giving you 20% damage that bypasses the damage cap, you're welcome, is the best for single target in the game. And despite what some people think, Astral still works on humanoids. Then you have Wild that can, well, do some insane things. What it actually does is give 85% of the damage you deal to a target in an AoE around you. So this means if you hit multiple targets at once, then it's going to be dealing 185% damage to just 2 targets. Next we have Grim, which as we previously discussed works really well on something like a quickfang or pairing good with mage builds. But now you have the immortal enchant, Vampirism. This enchant can give you basically infinite health on an M1 build, giving you an extra bar that will basically never deplete as long as you're not getting stunned too much. If you do choose to take Vampirism, you are taking a slower but safer clear over a potentially faster one, so it's up to you. Next you have the Detonation enchant, which you'll typically run on an Avenger. This is just the meta for Diluvian if you're not able to clear the no mantra status. You're using an Avenger over a Battle Axe simply because of the higher posture damage and range. And finally we have Tears of Edenkite on a Pale Briar. This is simply the fastest way to build chain in the game, and Tears of Edenkite does actually do decent damage. But now you know the meta weapons to run in PvE. So no matter what build, you'll have the highest DPS possible and the most effective enchants for wiping out anything in your path. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, join the Discord for PvE builds, and a huge thank you to my channel members, especially those kind souls on the super and mega tiers. They get these videos early along with other channel members' perks. Check out some more PvE content, and I'll see you all next time.